The river was already swallowing the road when Arav spotted the car going under. The storm had come out of nowhere, heavy, violent rain hammering the earth like it had a point to make, wind screaming like a warning nobody had time to catch. Arav had his daughter sleeping in the back seat, her tiny hand still curled around the corner of her beat-up teddy bear, when his headlights caught that flash of silver. Half a car, nose deep in the raging river that had burst through its banks. For a split second, fear locked him in place. Not for himself, but for his daughter. Then he heard it, a faint, desperate pounding from inside the sinking car, and something inside him just let go. If you believe in kindness and second chances, and in the idea that one brave moment can change everything, take a second right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us what it means to be human. Arav didn't think. He didn't stop to weigh the risk or think through the consequences. He just moved. He pulled the car over as best he could, threw open the door, and ran hard toward the river. Rain was killing his visibility. The current was brutal, pulling everything along with it. Branches, debris, chunks of broken road, and now a life. He could make her out through the glass. A woman trapped inside, her face drained of color, her hands beating against the window as the water climbed higher. He went in. The cold hit him like a punch, knocking the air right out of him. But he pushed through it. Stroke after stroke, he forced himself forward, his arms burning against the current. The car shifted dangerously just as he reached it. Water was already seeping through every crack. He smashed the window with a rock, glass exploding into the river. The water surged in hard, and for a moment, everything turned to chaos. But Arav held on. He reached inside, grabbed her arm, and pulled her toward him as she gasped for breath. She was heavier than he anticipated, not just physically, but weighed down with panic. She grabbed onto him like he was the only solid thing left in the world. And maybe he was. The river fought for them both, yanking them sideways, spinning them into the current. But Arav would not let go. He thought about his daughter asleep back in the car. He thought about her waking up and looking around for him. He couldn't let that be the last thing she ever did. With every last thing he had, he kicked and pushed and fought until finally his feet found solid ground again. They dropped onto the muddy shoulder of the road, both of them gasping, the storm still tearing apart the sky above them. For a long moment, neither one spoke. She was shaking hard, her clothes soaked through, her breathing all over the place. He looked away without thinking about it, not out of awkwardness, but out of respect, giving her space in a moment that felt too raw to rush. When she finally spoke, her voice was nearly gone beneath the rain. She asked him if he would stay, even if she had to get changed. Not in a way that meant anything inappropriate, not even close. It was a fragile, human question coming from a place of pure vulnerability, of survival. Her clothes were waterlogged, pulling the warmth right out of her body. She was freezing. Arav got it immediately. He turned his back without hesitation, set his jacket down beside her, and told her in a steady voice that he wasn't going anywhere. And he didn't. Minutes dragged by like hours. The storm slowly started losing its grip, its fury softening into a quiet drizzle. When she was done, she pulled his jacket around herself. Her hands were still trembling, her breathing still unsteady, but something in her eyes had shifted. There was something new there. Not just gratitude, but recognition. Arav walked her to his car, checking on his daughter first. The little girl was still out cold, completely unaware that her father had just wrestled a river to bring a stranger back to shore. The woman noticed the child right away. Something in her face went soft. The drive to the nearest hospital was quiet. Not tense, just heavy, like both of them were carrying something too big to put into words yet. When they got there, the truth came with them. She wasn't just anybody. She was Mira, a CEO known all across the city, a woman who had built an empire from nothing, whose name carried real weight in every room it entered. Powerful, respected, untouchable. And yet that night, she had just been a person drowning. Arav didn't react the way most people would have. No jaw drop, no wide eyes, just a quiet nod, like it didn't matter who she was. because to him, it genuinely didn't. Days went by. Arav went back to his life. A small rented house, long hours at work, raising his daughter on his own. Life doesn't hold still for heroes. Bills still needed paying, lunches still needed packing. Nights still felt too long. He figured he'd never see her again. But life has a funny way of coming back around. A week later, a black car pulled up outside his modest home. It didn't belong on that street. It stuck out against the narrow neighborhood, drawing looks from the neighbors. And then she stepped out. Not dressed to impress, not carrying herself with that sharp edge she was famous for. Just herself. She knocked on his door, holding something in both hands. A simple box. When he opened it, he saw something in her eyes. Real warmth. Not the kind she kept polished for boardrooms and business deals. Inside the box was a small, delicate bracelet. Nothing flashy, nothing expensive, but it meant something. She told him through quiet words and real emotion that he had saved more than her life that night. He had reminded her of something she had let go of somewhere along the way. Trust. Human connection. The belief that people still do things without waiting for something back. Arav didn't know what to say, because nobody had ever talked to him like that before. Their lives were worlds apart. There was no pretending otherwise. But somehow that night in the river had closed the gap between them. And slowly, over time, something neither of them planned started to grow. Not romance, at least not at first. Understanding. She started coming around, sometimes with food, sometimes just to sit and talk. She spent time with her daughter, who warmed up to her fast, laughing in a way that filled that little house with something it had been missing for a long time. Arav kept his guard up at first. He knew the distance between their lives, knew how easily something like this could vanish. People like her didn't stick around in places like his. But Mira did. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. She started seeing the world differently. Through him. Through the quiet kind of strength he carried. The sacrifices he never mentioned. The love he put into his daughter every single day. And Arav started to let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, life wasn't finished surprising him. But nothing good ever comes without a fight. The whispers started up. The questions, the side eyes, the judgment. What was a CEO doing in a neighborhood like this? Why was she spending her time with a man who had nothing to offer her world? People talked. They always do. And for the first time in a long time, Mira felt something she thought she had moved past. Doubt. One evening she stood outside his front door, hand raised, not quite knocking. Because this time it wasn't about survival. It was about choice. And choices are always the harder part. Inside, Arav sat with his daughter, helping her with homework, with no idea that everything was about to shift with a single moment. Before we get to the ending, I want you to do something. Comment below with the word kindness, if you believe one act of courage can truly turn someone's life around. Let's see how many of us still believe in people. Mira knocked, and when the door swung open, she didn't bring a gift. She didn't bring a rehearsed explanation. She brought honesty. She told him she didn't know exactly what this was or where it was headed, but she knew one thing. She didn't want to lose it. Because what she had found with him wasn't something she could go by. It was real. Arav looked at her for a long moment. Not as a CEO, not as someone out of his reach, but as the woman he had pulled from that river, the one who had asked him to stay. And he realized he already had. Not just that night, but every day since. The storm that brought them together had taken something from both of them, but it had also handed them something neither one was looking for. A second chance. Not just at life, but at connection, at trust, at something that ran deeper than their circumstances. And sometimes that's really all it takes. Not a perfect moment, not a perfect plan, just one choice to stay. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that even in the darkest moments, kindness can still light the way, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stories like this exist because people like you still believe in them. Because somewhere out there, right in the middle of someone else's storm, someone is still choosing to.